Thank you very much. 10 years ago, almost exactly 10 years ago this week, I came across a math problem. And it was a problem not unlike ones that kids in this school, in high school, come across all the time, high schools across the country. Now I'd like to demonstrate it for you, and, excuse me. Well, I just happen to have this here. Whoops. So the point is that I'm telling you that in this receptacle are 500 marbles. And in those, among those 500 marbles, there are 495 clear ones and 5 red ones. So 1% of these marbles in here are red. So we're going to take an experiment here. I'm going to reach in and pull out a marble. It was red, a 1 out of 100 shot. All right, rare things happen, no big deal. I'm gonna do it again. Another red marble. Now I told you it was a 1% shot, now it's happened 2 times in a row. Do it again. Another red marble. 3 times in a row, 3 out of 3 times, a 1 out of 100 shot came in. I'm starting to wonder how many red marbles there really are in here. Do it one last time, maybe things will get back to normal. Another red marble. 4 out of 4 times for something that should be about 1%. I'm not sure how many red marbles there are in here, but it's a lot more than 1%. And that was the math problem that I came across. But I came across it as a journalist, as a sports writer. And the marbles were not just marbles, they were people. They were National Football League players. And the red ones were getting brain damage. The brain damage commonly associated with boxers that can cause or hasten Alzheimer's disease, dementia, emotional deregulation, memory loss. It's pretty ugly. And we didn't know what the percentage was, but was it 1% really? Now I was a sports writer at the time, but I was a certain type of sports writer. I was a lifelong, proud, card-carrying math geek who was certainly not an athlete as a kid. I was the kid who didn't play sports, I kept the stats. And the only team I ever played on was the math team, the high school math team. And all I wanted to be was a math teacher. I wanted to be a high school math teacher. I loved the material so much. I got a math degree from Penn, all ready to become a high school math teacher. When I decided to just try something else more for fun, I went from the most altruistic profession in the world, teaching, to perhaps the most hedonistic. I became a sports writer. And I was a certain type of sports writer. I wrote about Moneyball before that term even existed. I wrote a book on the history of baseball statistics. I loved sort of being a teacher at a different blackboard. I taught math, you know, in a little bit in the articles, subtly, where I was able to say, hey, come on, folks, here's something interesting, and I hope you leave, after you're done, a little smarter than when you showed up. And I did this for a long time. I was a baseball broadcaster, writer, but then the football thing came across my radar. And I saw the first guy ever tested for this rare disease. He had it. And then the second guy ever tested had it. And then the third guy had it. And then the fourth guy, the 4th out of 4 guys ever tested for this supposedly rare disease had it. So the question becomes, is it really at the same rate as the national population? What is the actual rate of this disease among NFL players? Now, the league had all sorts of what were inherently mathematical arguments to tell me, no, you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, those 4 don't mean anything because there are a great many people who have played football who do not appear to have suffered these types of deficits. Okay, that sounds like it makes sense, but there are also a great many people who smoke tobacco who don't get cancer. But that's not the point now, is it? The point is, if you smoke, what are your rates of getting cancer, and is it higher than the national population? Come on, fellas. Now, these quotes were printed in newspapers nationwide when this stuff started coming out because of the articles we were doing at the Times. Here's another one, a PR guy, saying, hey, come on, Schwarz, memory disorders affect many people who never played football or other sports. Yes, that's true, but car crashes affect many people who never drive drunk. So driving drunk, come on, get off our back. And I was like, come on, guys, this is basic high school math. Why doesn't anyone understand this? So they really didn't understand, and I begged them to understand. And then one day, I was literally toe-to-toe, standing up front with the commissioner of the National Football League, asking him about the data and saying, isn't there any significance to this? And he said, huh? Alan, come on. There's no record they might have had gotten their concussions swimming. Our players, you don't know how they got. A concussion happens in a variety of different activities. And I said, well, I actually, my reaction, here it is.
You had a concussion swimming? My brother had a concussion swimming. Thank you very much. He hit his head outside the pool. Come on, Alan. It does happen. A concussion happens in a variety of different activities.
4 out of 4. It's 4 out of 4. And I appreciate your being patient with me.
4 out of 4 what?
4 out of 4 men above the age of 30 who played professional football, right, have been diagnosed with brain damage mostly associated with boxers. Are you suggesting that all 4 men sustained their damage in fields other than football?
You're going to have to talk to medical people.
I did talk to the medical people, and they agreed with him, sadly, including the current chairman of psychiatry at the Johns Hopkins Medical School, but we won't go after him at the moment. People in football just didn't want to believe it. They didn't want to think that a game that is very important to all of America, I don't know if you've heard, but there's a football game tomorrow. And it's a really big deal. And people just didn't want to believe it. And they were putting these mathematical arguments in front of me that just made no sense. Here's one where the guy who's supposed to care the most about the health and safety of football players, professional football players, the head of the players union, when I talked to him about this evidence that, hey, please don't fall over. This would be, I'm losing my marbles. Anyway, here is the head of the National Football League's Player Association when I was talking to him about the data.
I think we're just a reflection of society. Of course, we've gone through a tremendous amount of trauma in what we've done. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, I don't want to take that next leap to say, football caused dementia. Mm-hmm. I just don't believe that.
I just don't believe it. But the thing is I believed it because of basic high school math. There aren't 1% red balls in that helmet, and the rate of dementia among NFL players is higher than the national population. I'm sorry, guys. They were saying that 2 + 2 = 5. It doesn't. 2 + 2 = 4. Whether you like it or not, it just does. So they were attacking my core belief system. They were also, frankly, attacking me. It wasn't a whole lot of fun being a bit of a lone wolf going up against the NFL, particularly just with, in some ways, just with numbers. There were people, the NFL would call up the executive editor of the Times and say, Schwarz is just making it up. All right, you got to stop him. He's just another Jason Blair trying to make a name for himself. Okay, there was the person from Inside Football who asked me, do you have a family? People, fans writing to me, I should give you a concussion. And the fact that I was told that I was probably followed in Washington before a congressional hearing. Sports Illustrated actually called me up one day and said, these NFL players who are killing themselves, they're doing it because of you. You're scaring them. into thinking that they're going to get this disease. Do you have any comment? So it was really charming. But the thing is that the numbers had my back. The numbers spoke to me in ways they always have since I was a little kid. They said, don't worry, we have your back, and we'll be there when you need it. And so, okay, I can't just write articles about numbers, okay? You write articles about people. You try to humanize the issue because these numbers, they are people. They're teammates who can no longer remember each other, okay, who can barely communicate. They're young boys who play football, who think that concussions are no big deal because, hey, the NFL players do it. They play through concussions. Why shouldn't we? And they're also girls, okay? They're girls who play sports who need to know, despite the NFL's insistence, that concussions are a serious thing. It doesn't mean if you get a concussion you're going to die. It means that you just have to respect the injury. That's all we were doing. And so while writing these articles, I'm working on the numbers. I'm consumed with the numbers. I'm like, how can I get people to understand that 4 out of 4, a basic high school math problem, means something? And so I'm noodling around. This is me at the San Juan Marriott instead of hanging with my wife on the beach. I'm noodling around. I'm like, how many NFL players are there, and what are their rates, and just trying to figure this out. And I mean, it got a little more sophisticated once I got home, okay? But the thing is that once all that came together, after more than 100 articles, putting a human face on it, I was able to take this data and other data that was coming out and explain it and be kind of the math teacher I had always wanted to be, saying this is the data and this is what it means. It's important to know what data say. It's more important to know what they don't say. But sometimes they're screaming at you. And so you can see patterns and you can understand that 4 out of 4 really means something. And then in the league's studies that were published in these journals, okay, they were saying, well, here's the distribution of concussions among all of our teams over 6 years. And I'm like, no, that's not how numbers work. That can't be right. Numbers don't act like that. I've hung out with them more than my share, and they do not act like that. And next thing you know, we've got an article showing how they basically fudged their numbers, okay? And so the numbers gave me the confidence. They said, we've got you, hang in there. Well, you obviously have heard a lot about this stuff. There have been a lot of changes. Finally, the NFL gave in. The tree that we had been chopping at for so long finally toppled over. And the league acknowledged, yes, the data means something. And they wouldn't use these words, but Schwarz was right. They never did use those words. But anyway, but the thing is, there are now different rules in professional and youth football. There are laws across the United States to make it safer for kids, and to, if a kid gets a concussion, he's not allowed to go back on the field. He's not allowed to do that anymore. It's against the law. And just this week, about 4 days ago, the youth arm of the NFL said, you know what? We're going to change the rules of youth football. We're not going to have the youngest kids play tackle. We're going to recommend that the kids in the middle, the 8, 9, 10-year-olds, they don't have punts and kickoffs. We're going to get rid of them. They're not going to just crash into each other for no reason. There are going to be fewer people on the field. It's going to be a smaller field. It's going to be a safer game, because we can preserve the essence of what is a great game and an important game. We just can do it a little less insane. Okay? Now, in August, some would say at the height of my career, I said, you know what, math has been very good to me. I used math in a lot of different investigations, not just this one. And I said, you know what, 25 years ago, I vowed to be a math teacher. I'm going to shut up and do it. I left the Times, and I am, in fact, a math teacher, because I missed my friends. I missed the parabolas and the similar triangles and the marbles in helmets. And I said, you know what? In journalism, it was very frustrating because journalism, it deals with the inherently irreconcilable. It deals with governance, with poverty. There are no right answers. There are some that are less wrong, but there's no right answer, and you have specious agendas, you have lobbyists, you have spin, and people insisting that 2 + 2 = 5. And frankly, I couldn't take it anymore. And I wanted to go back to my friends, because what numbers may lack in nuance, they more than make up for in clarity. And the numbers had my back for all those years. I'm going to have their back now. And I'm going to teach the next generation. So, I mean, I know what my ultimate legacy is going to be. I've come to terms with that. But now I'm teaching kids, and just the other day, I was helping a girl with her ellipses and hyperbolas and asymptotes, my favorite stuff. I missed it so much. And she was sharing with me how last year in math she was having a tough time because she had actually gotten a concussion playing sports, and it was difficult for her to, she had headaches and it was hard to come back. She said, concussions are kind of a big deal, And I didn't tell her why I knew, and I didn't tell her why she knew. I just said, yeah, and just got back to the math that we were then going to do together. Thanks.